has to do with someone else that maybe isn't with us at the time, but I think you can go back. There's so many examples and ways this can be true, but it's true that the people we met are connected to our deepest regret. And there's something about this new series, Guardrails, that's so amazing, especially as it pertains to relationships. And I was pretty excited to talk about this with you guys. And this is great too. If you're new here at Branches Youth, I just want to welcome you first of all, or even if you're relatively new. And especially if you're not sure about the whole Jesus thing yet. And that's fine. The Christianity thing kind of freaks you out a little bit. I understand. Some guy talking at you, music, people lifting their hands. It gets a little weird. I get that. But if you're not sure about the whole Jesus thing, this message is for you, because this doesn't have to just pertain to Christians. You can implement what I'm getting to tonight in your own life and apply it, and it'll benefit you. I promise it will, in a big way. So yeah, this series is all about guardrails. And I actually have a picture of a guardrail I want to show you. Guardrails are interesting because they're a system that's put in place in roads to keep you from going into the danger zone. They want to keep you on the road, right? It's interesting. Do you guys have that picture? Yeah. All right, so this picture right here is a great example of a guardrail doing its thing, protecting this car, right? The thing about a guardrail is you may hit the guardrail and you may end up in the body shop, but hopefully it'll keep you out of the hospital, right? That's the idea of a guardrail. It's to keep you in the safe zone. You can see it here. It's clearly depicted. On the left side of the screen is the road where the car should be, right? And that's a safe zone. Everything on the road is fine, fair game, drive on that. But the guardrail is right on the line, pretty close to the danger zone, but it's not after, and I don't want to mess up my analogy too much here, but that guardrail is pushed off into the danger zone. Before this picture was taken, it was indeed on the safe side. The car kind of pushed it over a little bit. But the guardrails, the point of that is the guardrails are always in the safe zone. They keep you out of the danger zone. That's what the idea with the guardrail is. And when it comes to our lives and guardrails and putting up guardrails in our relationships in our lives, culture has this way of saying that, guardrails aren't necessary. And no one argues that these guardrails are necessary. Everybody thinks we need more of them, if anything, right? Because we're all texting and driving, doing stupid stuff, and driving off the road all the time. So no one complains. No one says, hey, we need less guardrails, right? No one says that. But culture, when it comes to relationships, they're fine with painted lines. They're like, hey, you don't need a guardrail. And don't they, especially Christians, you probably understand this, has anybody shamed you or mocked you because you set up a guardrail in your life? Have you ever felt embarrassed or made fun of because you put up a guardrail in your own life and you say, hey, I'm not okay with doing this. This isn't what I do, right? And culture is the first to just say, we don't need guardrails. But then when we fall into the ditch, right? When we take those things too far, when we get comfortable with sleeping around and the high school girl gets pregnant, right? Culture's the first to go in there and shame you and mock you once that's happened. They don't want you to have guardrails, but they also don't want you to end up in the ditch, but they don't really have any system to keep you on the road. And when you're down in that ditch, culture is going to just shun you, push you aside. It's sad, but it's true. Same thing with drugs and alcohol. You start experimenting with drugs and alcohol, and culture is going to say, hey, it's all right. Yeah, just as long as you do a little bit, it's fine. And maybe those guardrails we put up in our life so we don't do that normally. But as soon as you do, and you get addicted, or you get a DUI, or you make a bad decision one night, and you sleep with someone that you wouldn't normally have done that because you're wasted, right? Or you get in a car, with someone else, and you wreck because of someone's bad decision, right? The culture's going to look at you and be like, wow, cast you aside. You messed up. And they don't want us to have those guardrails there. So it's kind of this ironic thing. That's why it's important to have guardrails up. Now, do you ever notice that your parents, a lot of times, at least my parents, they're super overbearing and paranoid? Anybody have parents like that? My parents were the worst when I was in junior high and high school because they were always in my business, hey, you can't be out past 10 o'clock. It's probably even early. It's probably more like 8 when I think about it. But parents are paranoid. It's weird. Especially when it comes to relationships, I wasn't allowed to be in a room with the door closed with a girl, right? Some of you probably have that. Some of your parents might take it more extreme. I had this friend in high school that her parents she had such a problem with not listening to them, shutting the door. They eventually just took the door off. I mean, I don't know if anybody's gone that extreme. Maybe that's, I'm not advocating for that. But it's stuff like that happens, right? Parents are paranoid, but that's because they understand something. A lot of them do. I know not everybody has great parents. Their intentions are probably good. But I'd be willing to bet you know some parents in your life, maybe they're your friends' parents, that are a little bit like this. It's because they understand something. They understand that your friends ultimately determine the direction and the quality of your life, right? Your friends, you're constantly leading them, they're leading you. It's just the way relationships work. Your friends ultimately determine the direction and quality of your life. And they get that. You see, the same thing that makes friendships so marvelous, so good, also makes them dangerous, right? Because, like I said, with your friends or the people you met are connected to your deepest regret, right? That's because the people that we let in, the people that are close to us, they're the ones that end up, if something goes south in their life, they kind of take you down with them, right? When your enemies are around, when people you don't trust, you don't like, you're not going to let them in. You put your guard up. And so that's why it's a little counterintuitive. It's not how you think it would be. Because you think, the people I hate, the people I don't trust, the people that are bad in my life, they're the ones that you don't let in. Obviously, once they're part of your greatest regret, they're now on the bad side, but leading up to that, they weren't. And that's a problem, and that's scary. So we're going to go over a little bit about that tonight. Now, there's this brain neurosurgeon, Morin Cerf, and he's this pretty cool guy, super smart guy. I'm not going to pretend to understand what he does. But he did a study, and this study basically shows if a bunch of people get into a room, say you guys just like this, hadn't talked to each other tonight, and you're just sitting there listening to me, or just sitting there watching a movie, something's going on in the room, and you guys haven't talked to each other at all. The study shows that people's brain waves actually start to mesh. They start to line up without even talking to the people, without interacting with them. Your brain waves actually start lining up with people. And they concluded from this study that if you surround yourself with like-minded individuals, people who have the same goals, same traits, same future in mind, that you'll actually start to become like those people without even trying. It's an incredible concept, but the flip side of that is also true, and that's what we're trying to avoid tonight. Because just like you can spend time with people that are good for you, and they can pull you along and make you better and lead you where you want to go, you spend time with the wrong people, and you're going to end up in a ditch. And that's a scary thought. And it's so cool. Over 3,000 years ago, there's this guy that understood this too. A couple weeks ago when I talked we talked about King David. And for those of you who don't know King David, same guy, killed Goliath. Everybody knows that story. This is David's son. He's the third king of Israel ever. So Israel as a nation is still trying to figure this whole thing out. And Solomon was pretty humble at the beginning, which is, if you look at David's life, you're like, how did he turn out so good? Because all the people after that kind of turned out pretty bad. But Solomon was so smart, and he understood this. He actually had this Aladdin genie moment where God came to him, and he's like, dude, Solomon, you're killing it. I want to bless you. You get one wish. This is the only time in the Bible this happens. You get one wish. They have this genie in the bottle moment. He could have wished for anything. He's got, money on the table, ladies, land, power. This guy's king already. He's like, well, what am I going to do? He goes to God, and he's like, you know what? I'm young, inexperienced. The last thing I want to do is screw this thing up. So he asked for wisdom. That's a man. That's stinking cool, right? He asked for wisdom. God looks at him, he's like, hey, because you asked for wisdom, I respect the heck out of that. So he's like, I'm going to give you the power, the money, the land, the ladies. You're getting it all because he asked for wisdom. So that's cool. This guy was so wise, people would come to him all the time with their problems, their crazy problems, and people 3,000 years ago, you think you have problems. These guys, man, tell you what, they really had some problems. You'll see here in a second. These two prostitutes come up to him. Prostitution's legal. That's fine. They're sleeping all in the same house, same bed. I don't know if they really had bed, same sleeping mat. This crazy thing happens. One of the prostitutes rolls over, kills her baby. That sucks, right? So she does the first natural thing. She goes and steals the prostitute next to her, steals her baby, does the old switcheroo, and lady wakes up. She's like, oh, my baby's dead. Oh, this isn't my baby. That's my baby. And she's like, no, this is my baby. I've had this baby the whole time. And it's this whole awkward, okay, take it to the king, right? They bring it before Solomon. Solomon's like, give me my sword. I'll cut the baby in half. You can each have half the baby, right? Problem solved. First lady that's lying about it's like, yeah, it's fair. My baby's already dead. She doesn't care. Other lady's like, oh, no, don't do that. You can just let her have the baby. Just let the baby live. Solomon's like, problem solved. It's obviously your baby because you don't want the baby to die. You have the baby back. So he's doing stuff like this. So cool. Solomon's a wise, smart dude. He goes on later, and he talks in the book of Proverbs. And the book of Proverbs, if you're new to the Bible, even if you aren't, but if you're looking for somewhere to read, this is great because it's just full of all these wise sayings. He says this in Proverbs 13, verse 20. He says, walk with the wise and become wise, for a companion of fools suffers harm. And this is my only full verse tonight for you guys. This is so interesting, though, and it's so powerful. He says, walk with the wise, and without doing anything else, without even trying, you don't have to do anything else. You will become wise. Does it sound like that neurosurgeon we just talked about? It's just spending time with people that are wise. And what wisdom is simply this. I have a definition for it. Wisdom is simply this. It's understanding that your past is affecting your present, right? So the things you did yesterday affect who you are today. They may not make up completely who you are today, but the decisions, the things you put in motion in your past are affecting your present today. And what you do today also affects your future, right? So that's just understanding and not just living for today, not just saying, hey, this is all I have. It's setting yourself up and understanding that what you do today sets yourself up for the future, positive or negative. That's what wisdom is, right? And then the second half of that verse says, for a companion of fools suffers harm. And if you were to look at that and just say, well, what's the opposite of walking with the wise and becoming wise? The companion of a fool will become a what? Fool. That would make sense, right? But he takes it a step further. He's saying, you're not just going to become a fool if you hang out with fools. You're actually going to suffer harm. You're going to get hurt. See, it's a proximity thing. You guys know what proximity is? When you're close to something, like a grenade does this, right? Grenade blows up. Most of you probably haven't been around a grenade blowing up, but seen the movies, right? It's there. It's over there, and it's not going to hurt me. Oh, shrapnel, it hits you from a distance away. And that's what happens with our friends when they end up in the ditch. When life blows up because of their bad decisions, when the relationship goes bad, when they get too into drugs, alcohol, when their life goes to crap, they pull you down with them. And it hurts you. It hurts your relationship with them. And the chances are, spending time with them leading up to that point, they're dragging you down with them. And you just hope that, it wasn't too serious, that someone gets seriously hurt or permanently damaged or something like that. It's a true statement, though. Companion of fools suffers harm. Now, the easiest way to illustrate this is your friends that aren't concerned about or their own reputation. They're not going to be concerned about your reputation. It's the last thing on their mind. Your friends that aren't concerned about their own health, they're not going to be concerned about your health, right? Your friends that aren't concerned about their own faith or any kind of faith, they're not going to be concerned about your faith. And your friends that aren't concerned about their own future, the last thing they're going to be concerned with is your future. And this isn't about being judgmental. I know you guys could look at this and be like, oh, Timmy, you're being so judgmental. This isn't about being judgmental. See, being judgmental is all about them. It's saying, oh, what they're doing is wrong. It's setting yourself up as the what? Starts with the J, right? You're setting yourself up as the judge for their actions and what they're doing. This is nothing about them. This is all about you tonight. And I'm not going to say that very often from here, but tonight it's all about you and how you respond in these situations. And so this isn't about being judgmental. This is about exercising good judgment when it comes to your friends. See, the point of a guardrail is to light up your conscience and let you know before you end up in a ditch. It's important stuff. So if I could just beg you for just a couple more minutes here, there's 5 things that are, I believe, super important in kind of alerting you and letting you know when it might be time for a change up in the people you're spending a lot of time with. And I'm not saying you got to kick all your friends that make you feel like this or whatever to the curb. I'm saying that maybe you should find some other people to spend time with that are going to lead you into a direction that you want to end up. And the first one is just that. When it dawns on you that the group you're with isn't going where you want to end up. And this is a tough one because I think all throughout high school, the friend group I was with, while we had good times and good moments, I think I was kind of aware of this the whole time. You know, I was kind of on this trajectory and they were on this trajectory, and it was tough because it's like, oh, you spend time with these people, they have all the things in common with you, and you love them, but at some point there's this breaking point because it can't go on at different trajectories forever. And so when it dawns on you that the group you're with, you're spending all your time with, isn't going in the same direction, that should light up your conscience and let you know, hey, you know what, maybe I need to spend some time with some other people. Next one is when you catch yourself pretending to be someone other than you are. Does this sound familiar to anybody? High school, junior high. That's like the crux of it. I mean, pretending to be someone that other than you really are, like that's just like, that's it. That's what happens in junior high and high school, and hopefully it stops afterwards, but it doesn't get much easier because you're going to have jobs and different places you try to fit in. And so the easiest way to explain this is when you're nodding yes, and you're really thinking, no, I think that's a terrible idea, that should light up your conscience and let you know, hey, maybe this relationship, maybe this group isn't where I should be. The next one is when you feel pressure to compromise. And I hate the word compromise because I feel like it's so churchy. Like, don't compromise what I believe in. Like, it's true. I just don't like it. So this isn't even when you compromise. This is like before. This all happens prior to that. When you feel the pressure to compromise. When all of a sudden something that was never an option before becomes an option. Where you're like, I would never do that. And I think you can fill in the blank there. I would never do that. And all of a sudden, like, you're thinking, you know what, maybe I could do that. Maybe I could just do it a little bit, you know, whatever. Like, that's the time. Ding, 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 light. Might be time to just move on a little bit. Next one is, this is the biggest lie you can tell yourself too. I'll go, but I won't participate. Come on. Really? Now, I don't know. I heard it said like this before. I don't know if this will make a ton of sense to you guys since most of you aren't parents in here. But the best way I've heard this said is, would you trust your 13-year-old daughter with her saying this? So if you could put yourself into a parent's shoes for a second, would I trust my 13-year-old daughter with this? Yeah, I'm going to go. There's going to be 13 guys there and just me and my friend, and we're not going to do it. We're not going to do anything bad. It's fine. And it's like, no, come on, really? I'll go, but I won't participate? That should light up your conscience, if you're just thinking that. And the last one is, when you hope the people you care about don't know your whereabouts. I know it's kind of catchy. When you hope the people you care about don't know your whereabouts. And I was the worst with this in high school because it's tough in a small town, and I know it's only gotten harder. Your parents can stalk your friends before you hang out with them. They can stalk you. Find My iPhone wasn't a thing. I didn't even get a cell phone until I was like a junior in high school because it just wasn't a big thing. But now it's really hard to go places without someone knowing where you're at. And in a small town, it's especially hard too. But this isn't even when you go to those places. This is just you hoping that, hey, if I go to so-and-so's house, if I'm at this park after dark, you know, if I'm down by the river after dark or whatever, I really hope the people I care about, the people, my youth pastor, my friends that go to church, you know, maybe my parents, cousins, aunts, uncles, wherever, I really hope this would be really awkward if they saw me here. That should light up your conscience to let you know. This isn't about being judgmental. It's about exercising good judgment. See, our friends, they still determine the direction and quality of our life. It's so important to understand that. And you know what? The biggest thing in all this, I don't want to leave your friends out in the oblivion out there just like, oh yeah, cast them by the wayside and let them do their own thing. But when they ultimately reap what they sow, when they end up in the ditch because of their choices, don't you think it's a much better place to be in the safe zone of those guardrails so you can help them out and pull them out of that? because this is another message for another day. You can be down in the ditch with them fighting on your way back up, but I can tell you, I'd like to stop you from being there, because it's so important for you to have a good structure, to have a good life, one that you can help pull them out when they get to that spot. And if you're down there with them, it's so much harder. So just avoid that. And I don't want you to think that like I've got it all figured out. All these things, I can relate to them so much because I was there, man. I did some stupid stuff, and I just wish I could beg and plead with you guys to not make those same mistakes, and to pick a group of friends that you can spend time with, share your faith with, and grow stronger. And this is where it changes for you guys that you aren't Jesus people tonight. You're not sure about the whole Christian thing, because you can implement this in your life and become a better person, right? And that's great. That's good for here. I would ask you to seriously consider looking towards those people in your life that you know have faith in Jesus. And people aren't perfect. I'm not going to say that all Christians are perfect. It's so far from it. But if you look at the people in life that you really trust and you know and you respect that are Christians, and if you want what they want, what better thing than to have a personal relationship with Jesus? And if you want to do that tonight, you can talk to your small group leader, because I think that's super important too. And the thing about those 5 points I gave you, you could look at some of them and be like, you know what, I'm fine. I go all the time and I don't participate, and I'm okay with that. That's not me. I understand that. And you know what? Jesus had the same problem with the Pharisees, the religious leaders at the time, when he was up there shaking things up. Every point he makes, they had a counterpoint for. They'd sit there and argue with him to no end. And eventually he just threw his hands up. I imagine he just I'm not sure what his body language was at the time. He was just done with it. And he says this in Luke chapter 7. He says, but wisdom is shown to be right by the lives of people who follow it. And this is so important, because wisdom isn't an absolute. I can't convince you that if you do this every time, it'll help you. And you could say, you know what, I do this all the time, and I don't end up in the ditch, and it's okay. I know myself, right? Wisdom is proved right by those who follow it. And that just means you can look at the people around that have implemented these guidelines and see that their life is in a much better place. And that's all it's saying, is that another version says that wisdom is proved right by all her children. All the people that follow wisdom are the examples. They're the ones that you can look to for proof of this. I can't prove you wrong, but I can tell you, look at the people that have implemented these things and look at their lives. And I promise you, you will see the fruits of that. Remember, by remaining in the safe zone is how you're able to help your friends out when they end up in the ditch. I'm just going to pray for us real quick. God, thank you so much for this night. God, I pray that these young people would take this message to heart, God. God, because I know it can save them from so much heartache and turmoil and pain down the road. God, we don't want pain. God, I pray that the friends that do end up in the ditch, God, that we're prepared, God, because the worst time to prepare for a catastrophe is when you're in one, God, that we would have good bases, good support structure, so that we can pull them out and help them in their time of need, Jesus. Help us to take that to heart. We pray this in your name. Amen.